Hi everyone, this is Vicky. I am here today for Saturday Morning Makes, hashtag Satmorn Makes with Jill Norwood, and also I am going to do hashtag Sew in Love February with Anna Wright. So they both are my inspiration, of course, but Anna is doing just the sewing theme with either uh, with faux stitching or with anything to do with sewing, I think. And so I decided to do something with fabric. And so it took me all this time to get everything out. I have a lot of fabric and a lot of things to play with, so to decide what to do, I went towards this necklace for an inspiration that I made several years ago. It's a white, long, very long necklace, and I have all these hearts that I prim hearts that I cut out from a quilt. So I cut these out and then I put them on the necklace. So I got my quilt out. It is a wedding circle quilt, I think it's called. I'm not sure. But I did this at one point. So I decided I am going to use this quilt, and I'm going to show you that quilt. I cut a piece off because it was in very bad shape when I bought it. It still is. So you see a lot of holes, but it is clean because I washed it, and then it further fell apart. But there are some good pieces still, see? And so I just haven't used very much of it, just those tiny pieces for the hearts that I made, okay? And then I also used a tiny piece of this fabric that looks kind of quilted, and it's I think I got it at Joann's a long time ago. I'm not sure really where I got it. I have a lot of fabric in my stash. So, oh yes, P says, don't talk about stash. Hi P. Okay, so anyway, I have those things to work with, and it gives me a lot of variety and things to be able to make with. So I used a 110 cardstock in a beige color, and I used this Doris because I made a 5x7 card, which is an A7 envelopes for it. And so this is a large 5x7 embossing folder, so I use that on that. And then I use this Sizzix die. It is steel rule die by Sizzix Primitive Hearts, and so I used this one here, the middle size. I use that, and then I use this also for the inside, the spellbinders, and I did use this embossing folder. And then I use this, which is Stampin' Up, and it is a layering oval die, so I used that one. And I did use this that I found in my stash. I have a few stitching things, but I use this Memories Are Stitched with Love, so I use that. Okay, so then I'm going to go show you my card. I think that was a little bit easier. So anyway, this is my card, and usually if I make this ornate like this, I use and put a lot of work into it. I like to make it into a watercolor book or something, or a journal. But it was a progression, and I was finding things and deciding what to use, and so it was turned into just a card. But I started out with this piece here, the fabric I showed you, and then cut out the primitive heart from the quilt, and then I embroidered a little bit. Well, I sewed it first with a machine, done wrong the edges, and then I used embroidery thread starting at the bottom, went all the way around, and then tied it in a bow. So you have all these frayed pieces of and this embroidery thread is not cotton, It is it's nylon, I believe, polyester or something. But so it's really soft and flies away kind of thing. So I like that. I use this little flower. I cut apart a piece of an applique that I got at the vintage market, and so I cut one out of that and then put it right there. And then I used Fabri-Tac to glue this down. I did like a blanket stitch. It's not really a blanket stitch, just the stitching around the edge with the cotton embroidery thread. And so I did that all the way around, and then used Fabri-Tac to glue it down onto this linen piece, and then this is sari silk ribbon, and then I put that around the edges as well. This is sari silk, and this is a vintage corduroy button, which has still its original thread. So yeah, so I just saved those buttons and put it in a jar and use those for the projects that I have. And let's see what else. And then there's some pieces of layering of lace here and on here too that I put on here. And you'll see this is also the polyester kind of embroidery thread that I tied and did it 3 times around. This over here is a closure, and so what I did was I used like a burlap type of thread, and then on the end I put a little vintage crochet piece here, and put a little this is a new little tiny button, and then I wrap it around this vintage button that has this old piece of original fabric on it. I like the look of that, so I kept it that way. And then it's wrapped around 3 times, and then it opens up, and on this side it has gauze, which I wanted to just go ahead and cover partially this embossing folder, because it just looks a really stark, all of the embossing look, but this gives it a little more interest. And I like the threads, how gauze does that. This is actually one of those folded triangle armbands that you cradle your arm if you've injured your arm. Yeah, so I have one of those. So I used pieces of it in my works. So this is the inside, and this is the embossing. This Sizzix, not Sizzix, this is Spellbinder's embossing folder. And then I had this, it's cut in vellum. I had cut up a bunch of different kinds of and embossed pieces, so I decided to use this piece. I just ripped the edges and then distressed it with vintage photo and spun sugar, and then I laid it down, and I cut this with that Stampin' Up die, and then I inlaid this cardstock inside it, and I put this I actually cut this by hand and put this piece in here and put another flower. This lace is the lace I got a couple last week, I think, at the thrift store and by my daughter's house. And then a piece of gauze here, piece of gauze down here, and then sari silk and the button, vintage button. Okay, so I put inside, I wrote this, "So in love," with a flower, February, with a little dangling heart. And it was actually, let me show you, it looked like this in there, okay? And I thought this was too stark, and so I want to soften it up. So see how a little bit softened it looks. I put on top of this with a glue stick, and then I added a deli paper over it. It's really thin, thinner than tracing paper, so it softens that, and I often do that in my collages that I make. And then so I that's what I do with my collages also. Sometimes I don't like the paper, it's too bright, and so I will put the deli paper over it to soften it and match the other papers. So that's what the inside looks like. And I did write this with this pen actually. So if you use water on it, it will smear. But it's a Pilot. It's a Pilot 0.5, I believe. And but when it dried, when I use the glue stick, it doesn't run. Just if you use water, I believe. So that's what that came out to be. And I used, I think, glitter glue to adhere this down. And any time I use fabric or the lace, I use Fabri-Tac. Okay, so on the back, Sue Crozier, hi Sue, she gave me this heart. And so what I did was I adhered it to the back, and then I put the glitter glue on here, some glue I have, and then and then I put this. I had found this that I had written already, this little label, and so I sewed it on the edges. I think I had it. It looks like it's die cut. And then I just sewed it with the machine and put a little gauze with a vintage button on here. And then I used that stamp on there. I used just the bottom one. Did I show you the name of that? I found this in my stash. These stamps, they're really nice. They're red rubber. They clean up really easily. And so I got that, stamped that and just dated it because it says my name on here. And then I used a vintage crochet and a piece of gauze and a vintage button for the other side of the closure, which goes around this way and around 3 times, and then it goes around the button. And I used Fabri-Tac for that as well. So you can have it dangling like that, or you can close it tighter and have it closer to the button like that. So that's my project share. I hope you guys enjoyed my little card, which I wish I made it into a watercolor book, but needless, it is this way. So thanks a lot for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye bye.